So one of my regular viewers, who's a fellow vegan, I think was fairly concerned that I may be inviting iron overload through the taking of an iron multivitamin with iron. Now, what's interesting is, for years, this is the problem you have, is a lot of physicians are not nutritionally minded. Whether they're DOs or MDs, etc. They're not nutritionally minded, they don't know about nutrition, and they don't order the tests that you need to monitor your nutrition. So for years, after being homeless, I had extreme anxiety, I was very pale, very weak, very cold all the time. I had many of the symptoms of iron deficiency. I would get breathless, which we found out was autonomic dysfunction, and anxiety. I do have anxiety, but the autonomic dysfunction was taking what was going on to a new level. Okay, so I have post-traumatic stress disorder, but the autonomic dysfunction really was not good. Without the proper medication for the autonomic dysfunction, I was not doing too well with, and it was impossible to deal with the post-traumatic stress if I couldn't deal with the physical ailment, which was causing a great deal of the other issues. So the thing is, I started taking an iron supplement in my multivitamin. I switched to a women's multivitamin, which had iron, so that I would get enough iron. Now, on top of that, I do take a lot of vitamin C. Now, my iron levels did correct. Now, the other thing is, what you have to understand is, while they were trying to figure out what exactly was going on with my heart, I was in and out of the emergency room many times, sometimes 5 times a week. So they were drawing blood every time I was going in the emergency room, which does what? It saps your body of iron. It's the only, your iron level is more or less static. The only real way to lose iron, besides chylation, is through phlebotomy, meaning bloodletting. And that was the thing, is they were taking my blood so much and they're not finding anything in my blood. Number one, they're not checking my ferritin level. If you tell somebody to check your ferritin level, they'll go, well, I think you have generalized anxiety disorder. For some reason, they think that if you have a mental health concern, you're immune to all diseases. And that's the problem with that. So it's very difficult to get the proper tests. I'll get into that later, my way around that. So, liver enzymes such as alanine, blah, 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 and albumin, bilirubin, prothrombin, oral iron supplementation at typical replacement doses has little or no adverse effects on the liver or serum enzyme elevations. Now, what I will be doing, I'm going to get into, there's a company called Life Extension, which was founded by Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw as a not-for-profit. I don't know who owns it now. It's one of the big pharma companies, but they still offer the same products. So that's a positive. And one of the products they offer are blood tests to monitor nutrient levels in different organ systems and things like that. So the thing is, in regular replacement doses, it has little or no effects on the liver or serum enzymes elevation. However, in high doses or overdoses, it can cause acute hepatotoxicity, meaning it can result in iron poisoning. Toxicity occurs after ingestion of over 3 grams of ferrous sulfate, so that's quite a bit of iron. That's over 3,000 milligrams. So that would be approximately 10 tablets of, and you have to remember, I'm only getting between 8 milligrams and 18 milligrams, depending on the brand of vitamin. Usually it's 8 milligrams. So the thing is, that's not a lot of iron. However, me taking it with vitamin C does indeed increase the iron level. However, you're talking about an enormous amount of iron. Severe toxicity with aminotransferases greater than 25 times the upper limit of normal typically occurs with larger overdoses and high initial serum levels. I don't know if people remember, there used to be a warning on Flintstones vitamins that iron, and actually all vitamins, that iron was the leading cause, iron overdose from kids eating vitamins was at one point the leading cause of death in children in the United States, or one of the leading causes of death. I forget if it was number 1 or number 2. So oral iron supplementation at typical replacement doses has little or no adverse effects on liver, serum, enzymes. Okay, so over 3 grams. Severe toxicity, Okay, so moving forward. Now this is discussing why you should pair your iron with vitamin C in order to better absorb it. This is a common thing. Most vegans need to know this. When you eat a meal, take your meal with vitamin C or something containing vitamin C, such as raw red pepper or an orange or something of that nature, because it helps to absorb the iron in the food. Okay, so vitamin C is a water-soluble and essential nutrient, yada yada yada, tissue damage, yada yada. Types of vitamin C: ascorbic acid, dihydroascorbic. Iron and its role in the human body. Iron is one of the most abundant metals found in the human body. It plays an important role in the formation of proteins and red blood cells. Iron is a vital component of the enzyme that facilitates the conversion of sugars and starches into energy. When iron levels are low, our bodies lack the fuel for energy production, and this can cause fatigue. In addition, our bodies need iron to carry oxygen from our lungs to all of our tissues. Iron and vitamin C. If we have too little iron, we may experience shortness of breath or feel tired. Now, this is one of the problems. Iron overload and not having enough iron have a lot of the same symptoms. Iron is also essential for the synthesis of hemoglobin and myoglobin. Okay, hemoglobin is a protein in the red blood cells that transports oxygen from the lungs to other body organs. It also transports carbon dioxide away from the body organs to the lungs for exhalation. Myoglobin is a protein found in skeletal muscle cells that stores oxygen reserves in the muscles. 70% of the iron in your body is found in hemoglobin and myoglobin. Types of iron: heme iron. You're not going to get that as a vegan because it only exists in animal products. But non-heme iron comes from plant sources such as fruits, vegetables, and grains. Your body absorbs heme iron much more easily than it absorbs non-heme iron. You can boost the amount of non-heme iron absorbed by eating foods rich in vitamin C at the same time you eat high iron foods, because vitamin C helps your body absorb the non-heme iron in plants. Vegetarians have a higher risk of low iron levels due to the fact that many plant-based foods contain non-heme iron, which isn't as readily absorbed as heme iron found in animal products. Iron absorption. Once ingested, iron is transported through the digestive tract to the intestines. Most iron is absorbed in the duodenum section of the intestines. The heme and non-heme iron are absorbed via the mucosal cells of the duodenum. Part of the iron is absorbed into the bloodstream and taken to respective organs and cells. The rest of the absorbed iron is stored in a protein called ferritin, which constitutes the body's iron stores. The iron stores range for a healthy male in 600 to 1,000 milligrams, while for healthy females is 200 to 300 milligrams. Iron and vitamin C go together because ascorbic acid encourages iron absorption. Iron deficiency. Despite iron being an essential element, a lot of people suffer from iron deficiency. Iron deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency in the world, affecting more than 2 billion people. The problem can be caused by a lack of dietary iron or a lack of absorption of existing iron stores. The most affected demographic are women in the reproductive age because they menstruate, of course. Vegans and vegetarians are also susceptible to iron deficiency because the non-heme iron present in plant foods is less absorbable. Iron deficiency occurs as iron stores get depleted. It occurs in stages, the most extreme of which is iron deficiency anemia. Vitamin C has a great impact on iron absorption. You can read this on your own for a better understanding. So what is iron overload? Okay, so the symptoms of iron overload are joint pain, abdominal pain, loss of sex drive. So this is the positive. I have absolutely zero symptoms of any of this. And that young lady, I really appreciate her comments. She leaves intelligent, thoughtful comments on my videos and humorous comments from time to time. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want people bothering her. Okay, so loss of sex drive, skin colored gray or bronze, heart failure, infertility, diabetes. So if untreated, these are the basic symptoms: joint pain, abdominal pain, loss of sex drive, skin colored gray or bronze. So if not treated, it can lead to heart failure, infertility, diabetes, cirrhosis of the liver, arthritis, hypothyroidism, impaired growth, erectile dysfunction, cancer, and depression. Iron has a very important role in your body. It plays blah, 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 DNA, yada, yada. We already went through this. The human body does not have the ability to purposefully remove or excrete excess iron. Although some iron is lost in normal processes, such as shedding of skin, once the body's maximum iron storage capacity is reached, iron begins to build up in other parts of the body, leading to iron overload. When there is more iron in the body than the transferrin for it to bind to, it circulates around by itself as non-transferrin bound iron. This form of iron is toxic to the body and causes damage to tissues and organs at the cellular level. Excessive iron accumulates in the heart, lungs, brain, endocrine glands, liver, and even the bone marrow. Hemochromatosis, this is a genetic disease. Transfusion-related iron overload. This is for people that are getting too many transfusions. Diagnosis: iron overload occurs over time and often patients will not show any signs. It is more likely that iron overload will be detected by laboratory results before the person has symptoms. The most common test to assess iron saturation is a serum ferritin level, which is something that I had ordered. Healthy men usually have a ferritin level of 24 to 336 micrograms per liter. Healthy women's results are usually 12 to 307 micrograms per liter. That's genetic testing, magnetic resonance imaging. Okay, moving on. So we're going to get into what is alpha lipoic acid. Lipoic acid, often called alpha lipoic acid, which is a synthetic form of ribonucleic or whatever, R-nucleic acid, or not nucleic acid, R-lipoic acid, also known as thiourea acid, is naturally occurring compound that is also synthesized by humans. Endogenously synthesized lipoic acid is bound to a protein and functions as a cofactor for several important mitochondrial and multi-enzyme complexes. Supplementation with lipoic acid transiently increases plasma and cellular concentrations of unbound lipoic acid. Lipoic acid is a direct antioxidant, although any increase in radical scavenging activity in vivo is likely transient. Lipoic acid may also trigger antioxidant defense, enhance cellular glucose uptake, and modulate the activity of various cell signaling molecules. Some evidence for small randomized controls suggests that high lipoic acid may improve measures of glucose utilization in subjects with metabolic disorders. Its available evidence suggests that treatment with intravenous or oral lipoic acid may help symptoms of diabetic peripheral neuropathy. Lipoic acid was found to slow disease progression when administered to a mouse model with multiple sclerosis. Current evidence is too limited to suggest whether lipoic supplementation could benefit patients with Alzheimer's. Supplementation with lipoic acid may show some benefits in terms of weight control for individuals with a high body mass index. Lipoic acid occurs naturally in food, covalently bond to protein, whereas supplements contain unbound free lipoic acid. If you choose to use supplements, the Linus Pauling Institute recommends 200 to 400 milligrams a day for generally healthy people. So this is going about how it's a thiol-based, it has two thiol-based sulfur groups. So this is a naturally chelating agent, and we're going to get into chelation in a bit. So endogenous, I already take alpha lipoic acid. I take 400 milligrams a day, which I will be increasing to 600 milligrams a day. Endogenia, this is going over the biosynthesis, how you make it. So the synthesis of lipoic acid has been characterized in detail in the yeast, blah, 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 but no, not all genes involved in the process have been identified in humans. Lipoic acid is synthesized de novo in the mitochondria, blah, 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 blah. Dietary and supplemental lipoic acid consumption of lipoic acid from food has not yet been found to result in detectable increases of free lipoic acid in human plasma. Okay. So, biological activities, it's an enzyme cofactor. The glycine, okay, it catalyzes the of glycine coupled to Okay, so this is great for increasing glutathione, alpha-ketoglutarate. Okay, unbound lipoic acid. Okay, antioxidant activities. It scavenges reactive free radicals and nitrogen free radicals that are either nitrogen-based or oxygen-based. Regeneration of other antioxidants. It boosts back up vitamin E, vitamin C, and other antioxidants like coenzyme Q10. So when they're oxidized, it deoxidizes them. It stimulates NRF2. It regulates cellular glucose uptake. It regulates other signaling pathways. Lipoic acid deficiency has been described in rare cases of inherited mutations in the lipoic acid biosynthetic pathway. Mutations identified in patients with defective lipoic acid metabolism affect genes involved in the synthesis of iron-sulfur clusters. So, in diabetes, chronically elevated blood glucose concentration is a hallmark of diabetes or type 1 diabetes, okay, which is an autoimmune destruction of the insulin-producing beta cells leading to the Although patients with type 2 diabetes may eventually require insulin intravenous interventions that eventually, so they don't require insulin intravenously, they require insulin eventually, usually. Or not usually, in some cases. The term prediabetes is sometimes used to describe early metabolic abnormalities, glucose utilization. The effect of high-dose lipoic acid on glucose utilization has been primarily examined in individuals with type 2 diabetes in early clinical trial, and 13 patients with type 2 diabetes found that a single intravenous infusion of 1,000 milligrams of lipoic acid improved insulin-stimulated glucose disposal by 50%. Endothelial function, phenomena, diabetic neuropathy. Up to 50% of diabetic patients develop peripheral neuropathy, a type of nerve damage that may result in pain, loss of sensation, and weakness, particularly in the lower extremities. Peripheral neuropathy is also a leading cause of lower limb amputation in diabetic patients. Autonomic neuropathy, which is what I have. Another that's autonomic dysfunction is neuropathic complication of diabetes mellitus is cardiac autonomic neuropathy, which occurs in as many as 25% of diabetic patients as well as other people. It is characterized by damage to the nerve fibers that innervate the heart and blood vessels, leading to reduction in heart rate, reduced heart rate, variability in the same time interval, 72 patients, summary, overall, available, blah, 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 diabetic retinopathy, it helps with that. It helps delay multiple sclerosis by stopping the destruction of the myelin sheaths. It helps with cognitive impairment and dementia. You can read this all on your own. It helps with weight management. Endogenious, it goes over the food sources. It's food sources, you're not going to get a whole bunch from your food, so keep that in mind. But it would be like kidney, heart, and liver, spinach, broccoli, okay. Supplements, unlike lipoic acid in food, supplements is not bound. It's better to get it from supplements because you're not going to get really much of it from food. Moving forward, you can read this on your own. It's linked in the description. So this is lipoic acid from Mount Sinai, okay. So, what it does, other antioxidants work only in water, vitamin C, or fatty tissues, vitamin A. Alpha lipoic acid works in both, It affects the whole cell. That's what makes it so special. Diabetes. Several studies suggest alpha-lipoic acid helps lower blood sugar levels. You can read this on your own. I'm going to go through it pretty quick. Because alpha-lipoic acid can pass easily into the brain, it may help protect brain and nerve tissue. Preliminary studies suggest alpha-lipoic acid may help treat glaucoma. This is about the dietary sources, of course, brewer's yeast, yada yada yada. Available forms, it's available in supplement form. How to take it. Alpha-lipoic acid has not been studied in children, so it is not recommended for pediatric use. Adult, check with your doctor regarding dosing recommendations. Precautions because of potential for side effects and interactions. Now, before I continue, I have to say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a DO, I'm not an MD, I'm not an ND, I'm not a chiropractor, I'm not a nutritionist, not a dietitian, I'm not an LPN, I'm not an RN, I'm not anything like that. Okay. So, it can, thyroid, alpha-lipoic acid may lower levels of thyroid hormone, blah, 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 vitamin B1, thiamine, alpha-lipoic acid can lower the level of B1 in the body. This can be particularly dangerous in alcoholics. Okay, moving forward. So this is an overview of lipoic acid, insulin resistance and the metabolic syndrome. This is from Science Direct. So let's take a look here. Nutritional summary. It's a cofactor of several enzymes, yada yada yada. Requirement: most people get enough from endogenous synthesis and bacterial production alone. Dietary intakes may provide some additional benefits, especially in regard to antioxidant action. So in regard to diabetes, alpha-lipoic acid is a potent antioxidant that is considered important for the treatment of metabolic syndrome. The mechanisms by which ALA exerts its, meaning alpha-lipoic acid, exerts its effects include protection against oxidative stress-induced, as I said, inhibition of so it helps inhibition of hepatic glucogenesis. So it helps your liver not make as much glucose and increases peripheral glucose use. What's important that people understand, if you're on diabetic medications, this might not be the best supplement for you. That's important to understand. Alzheimer's disease. Now this is why, like what I want to point out here, when people take metformin for anti-aging purposes, metformin is a medication with a slew of side effects. Alpha-lipoic acid, not so many side effects. Just pointing that out. If you take them together, you're going to have some side effects probably. Alzheimer's disease. Alpha-lipoic acid is a natural compound synthesized, dosage 600 milligrams. So, in addition to inducing the antioxidant system, blah, 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 it has been shown to improve glucose handling, increase nitrous oxide activity, and activate phase 2 detoxification. Dosage, 600 milligrams of alpha-lipoic daily for 2 years, or a combination of omega-3 and alpha-lipoic acid for 1 year, slowed down the progression of cognitive decline in Alzheimer's disease patients. An overview on nutraceuticals and herbal supplements. Alpha-lipoic acid is a thiotic acid. Alpha-lipoic acid is found in foods such as red meat, organ meat, spinach, broccoli, and yeast. It is both fat and water soluble. The proposed mechanism of action of alpha-lipoic acid are as an antioxidant, the scavenging of free radicals, and metal ion chelation. And I'm going to get into that in a second. That's important for what I'm talking about in this video series. So metal ion chelation. Alpha-lipoic acid is approved in Germany for the management of diabetes associated with polyneuropathies. In experimental animal models of diabetes, alpha-lipoic acid treatment improves neural blood flow, endoneural glucose uptake, and metabolism and nerve conduction. Alpha-lipoic acid administration administered intravenously at 600 milligrams daily for 3 weeks improved symptoms of diabetic neuropathy pain Similar findings were also reported for oral doses of alpha-lipoic acid. So it works orally or intravenously. So the daily oral doses are 600 milligrams to 1,200 milligrams and 1,800 milligrams of alpha-lipoic acid, or placebo over 5 weeks. Significant improvements favoring all three alpha-lipoic acid groups were found. Okay, so alpha-lipoic acid and acetyl L-carnitine in dementia. So homeostasis, blah, 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 blah. Therapeutic role of nutraceuticals in mitochondrial disorders. Alpha-lipoic acid is naturally found in mitochondria. Alpha-lipoic acid works as a cofactor for activation of enzymes for ATP production. Alpha-lipoic acid produced in mitochondria endogenously. A certain quantity of this compound is present in food like beef, liver, citrus, and vegetables, and is available as a dietary aid. Dietary supplements may contain either natural R-alpha-lipoic acid or refined S-alpha-lipoic acid. Alpha-lipoic acid in the range of 500 to 600 milligrams is typically utilized as oral supplements. A case study was published in 1995 in which a patient was supplemented 3 times daily with 200 milligrams, and it's good to break it up to keep your blood sugar stable. After 7 months of supplementation, the alpha-lipoic acid had improved the mitochondrial disorders. Vitamins. Lipoic acid is made in the liver of most animals. The coenzyme is linked by amide linkage. Okay. Hypertension, menopause, and natural antioxidants in foods and diet. Alpha-lipoic acid, or thiotic acid, or thioctic acid, is a small molecule with normally humans synthesize it from fatty acids. So it is necessary to obtain lipoic acid from animal and plant sources. It is red meat, liver, heart, kidney, spinach, broccoli, tomatoes, Brussels sprouts, potatoes, garden peas, and rice bran. You're not going to get a whole bunch from that, though. Pharmacokinetics, of lipoic acid. The therapeutic level of lipoic acid can be achieved by oral supplementation because it is so well absorbed. Therapeutic implications of anti-inflammatory natural products in Alzheimer's disease. Lipoic acid is a naturally occurring fatty acid found in yeast, spinach, broccoli, potatoes. As you can tell, this is a meta-analysis of many studies. So lipoic acid has an outstanding safety profile in both animals and humans, even when treated at high doses. In vitro studies revealed lipoic acid protects cultured hippocampal neurons from amyloid beta-induced neurotoxicity. Multiple sclerosis. Alpha-lipoic acid and its reduced form are potent antioxidants with multiple modes of action. Alpha-lipoic acid, or DHLA, regenerates other antioxidants such as vitamin C and vitamin E. It repairs oxidative damage. So it doesn't just stop oxidative damage. This antioxidant repairs it. Alpha-lipoic acid absorbed in the diet and synthesized is converted intracellularly. Alpha-lipoic acid given 600 milligrams to relapsing remitting MS patients was barely measurable in the serum, but alpha-lipoic acid given at 1,200 milligrams once daily showed higher serum levels. Higher alpha-lipoic acid serum levels was associated with lower MMP9 levels and lower soluble intracellular adhesion molecule. Thus, alpha-lipoic acid is linked to increased immunomodulatory activity. So it helps modulate the immune system. And moving forward, ameliorating metal-induced cellular stress with alpha-lipoic acid. Alpha-lipoic acid and its reduced form are endogenous dithiol blah 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 figures. So alpha-lipoic acid, that's the two, what they look like. These are different. So This is the structures of alpha-lipoic acid and dihydrolipoic acid. Cell viability, cells after exposure to toxic metals. Cell viability, cacao 2 cells after exposure to toxic metals. After treatment with toxic metals or DHLA for 48 hours, determined by trypan blue exclusion method. Medium exposure to toxic metals. The intracellular levels of glutathione upon exposure to toxic metals and or ALA measured. Intracellular levels of GSH upon exposure to toxic metals and let's see here. Blood. It stimulates nerve 2. Okay, moving forward. Alpha-lipoic acid and dihydrolipoic acid. This is an explanation of those charts. So these are known as promising scavengers of oxidative stress and possible chelators in mercury toxicity. So alpha-lipoic acid and its reduced form have been historically considered excellent antioxidants. However, very few existing drugs to date can successfully prevent mercury toxicity, although several thiol-based chelators, remember this is a thiol-based acid, ameliorating, focusing, So, moving forward. So, let's see here. So this is about how alpha-lipoic acid removes excess iron from the blood. Previous reports showed that alpha-lipoic acid binds to iron or any biovalent metal, hence its property of iron chylation reduces the amount of iron in the body, thereby alleviating oxidative stress both enzymatically and by free radical direct scavenging effect. Interestingly, alpha-lipoic acid is able to act inside the lysosomes, the conjugated action of cysteine, blah blah blah, possibly with the help of lysomal constituents such as lysomal thiol reductase through its two vicinal thiolic groups, DHLA, blah blah blah. Several groups have reported that lysosomal degeneration or degradation of ferritin is crucial for the utilization of ferritin iron stores in a number of different settings. So you got to keep in mind that, as it states here, alpha-lipoic acid reduces iron-induced toxicity and oxidative stress in a model of iron overload. So it is effective in iron overload. So in humans, total iron content is maintained within 200 to 1,500 milligrams by regulating Different clinical conditions are associated with iron overload, and they are classified as primary and secondary forms. Several pharmacological strategies are currently available to manage iron overload, even though some important issues need to be raised, such as high therapy costs, toxicity, and patients. So when you're getting like EDTA is not necessarily the safest thing. It has side effects. Alpha-lipoic acid, not so many side effects. Alpha-lipoic acid, also known as thioctic acid, I'll never be able to say that right, is naturally occurring substance existing in almost all types of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. ALA exhibits both hydrophilic and hydrophobic properties, so it binds to the fatty part and the watery part of the cell, and as well as the extracellular matrix. It can move all throughout your body. ALA possesses many biochemical functions, being able to act as an antioxidant, a metal chelator, and to reduce the oxidized forms of other antioxidant agents such as vitamin C, vitamin E, and glutathione. This is why if you take high doses of vitamin C, it's a good idea to take alpha-lipoic acid. Results: alpha-lipoic acid chelating and antioxidant properties. Once results showed blah blah blah. Okay, these results were these results were further confirmed. So iron content measured following pearls staining. Furthermore, ALA treatment. So ALA treatment reduced iron storage when co-administered. Okay, compared to these results were further confirmed. Yada yada yada. These results were further confirmed. Increased oxidative stress following the treatment. The protein expression. In vitro effect of alpha-lipoic acid on iron overload-mediated autophagy. Consistent with previous reports, our results showed that iron overload following FAC treatment results in significant increase of autophagy, blah, blah, blah. Similar to oxidative stress results, getting treatment with FAC and ALA resulting in a significant reduction of autophagy. So, consistent with the in vitro results, we also showed that FAC treated in zebrafish model resulted in significant increase in liver and intestine iron storage when compared to However, when treated with ALA prevented an increase in iron content in all examined tissues. Surprisingly, under their experimental conditions, no significant increase of iron storage was observed following FAC treatment. Iron storage reduction following ALA treatment was even more evident compared to DFO treatment. So ALA protected against histopathological alterations and iron stores induced by iron overload in zebrafish. These results were further confirmed. Blah, 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 blah. Effect of ALA oxidative stress parameters in zebrafish, blah, 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 and intestine gene expression, yada, yada, yada. Okay, iron overload may occur under various pathological conditions, including genetic forms such as hereditary hemochromatosis, while others are acquired, such as those related to repeated transfusions. There are 3 chelating agents currently approved in the U.S. and by the Food and Drug Administration, and that's deferoxamine, whatever. Iron chelators can reduce complications such as cardiomyopathy, the major cause of death from iron overload. Previous studies suggested that the accumulation of mitochondrial iron contributes to the decay of mitochondria. Cell culture materials, okay, moving forward. You can read this on your own if you want more intense understanding. So, alpha-lipoic acid reduces iron-induced toxicity and oxidative stress in a model of iron overload. Iron toxicity is associated with organ injury, blah, blah, blah. The aim of the present study, yada, yada, human, Our results showed that it resulted in a significant increase to the alpha-lipoic acid treatment. In conclusion, alpha-lipoic acid possesses excellent iron chelating properties that may be exploited in clinical settings. So alpha-lipoic acid possesses excellent iron chelating properties. This is the introduction. It's going through the whole study. You can read it on your own if you want. It goes deep into it. Alpha-lipoic acid on iron overload, lipid profile, and oxidative stress. The results of this study indicated that supplementation with 600 milligrams a day of alpha-lipoic acid may decrease serum ferritin. Okay, furthermore, further studies are needed to confirm these findings. Now, what's important, what I skipped over there, I forgot to point out, this is in beta thalassemia patients. So this works even with people with genetic mess-ups like beta thalassemia. So keep that in mind. So alpha-lipoic acid doesn't just work against iron, it also has effects against lead toxicity, which is, it can affect the IQ, mechanisms of lead toxicity, okay, lead effects on health, as we know, it destroys the nervous system, it destroys the kidneys, so it's going over reproductive issues, okay, it destroys the liver. Role of antioxidants in mediating lead toxicity. Vitamin E, this is going over the different antioxidants. This is why you really need to pay attention to that triage theory of aging and disease. Alpha lipoic acid is a biological molecule which functions in cellular acyl group transfer active ties. Studies have shown that alpha lipoic acid protects animals from lead acetate, induced seizures and mortality, blah blah blah. Quercetin, which I'm also going to get into because I do take a lot of quercetin, is potent flavonoids that protect against degradation of free radicals such as reactive oxygen and nitrogen species, which are generated during metabolism. Quercetin is abundant in foods, including green leafy vegetables, fruit, and beverages. Quercetin at 50 milligrams per kilogram of body weight was found to have protective effects on rats intoxicated with lead. And this just goes over other antioxidants. People can read this on their own. It's very interesting in regards to what actually can protect you against lead. It's not as crazy as you think. You don't need to do some crazy rainwater detox. These are everyday things. Role of flavonoids, and this is about the role of flavonoids in the treatment of iron overload. Iron overload is a high risk factor for many diseases in almost all human chronic diseases. Okay, this is about the introduction. Iron metabolism, iron overload. This is just rehashing. Many flavonoids have specific metal binding sites. Now, this is why people in the carnivore community like to refer to these as quote-unquote anti-nutrients, because they have metal binding sites and they help to take metals out of the body. The only problem with that is it also protects you from metallic overload. Compared with existing iron chelating agents, they are very safe and inexpensive. Okay, researchers have made great efforts to explore the molecular mechanisms of flavonoids in iron overload. Although some progress has been made in the study of flavonoids in iron overload, research has mainly focused on in vitro studies. Iron overload can affect the clinical course of a variety of diseases. Okay, moving forward. Quercetin attenuates neurotoxicity induced by iron overload nanoparticles. Okay, iron oxide nanoparticles, meaning rust, little particles of rust, have been proposed as targeted carriers to deliver therapeutic molecules in the central nervous system. However, they have a bad habit of causing oxidative stress. So what happens is quercetin, let's see here, boom. So quercetin helps to protect these little guys, these rats here, protect their little brains from that. Oh. The term nanomaterial refers to material on the nanoscale with 1, 2, or 3 external dimensions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, moreover, yada, yada, yada. Quercetin modulates oxidative stress status via binding to the reactive oxygen and or nitrogen species, yada, yada, yada. Iron metabolism and homeostasis. Iron in your body is an essential mineral. We know all this, blah, blah, blah. We've been through this before. Okay. Iron in the brain due to significant relevance between neurodegenerative diseases and abnormal iron metabolism. An accurate description of the fate of iron in central nervous system issues is necessary. Iron and central nervous system, this is one of the toxicities that nobody's checked for when they go to a psychiatrist, by the way. So, an essential role in many normal neural functions. So, iron does play a role in normal neurological functions, including cell division, energy production, axon myelination, dendritic synthesis, branching, and neurotransmitters. Synthesis, such as dopamine and serotonin. Iron is a cofactor for tyrosine, hydroxylase that is involved in dopamine synthesis, and tryptophan hydroxylase that is involved in serotonin synthesis. Okay. So, of course, too much iron is not a good thing. So, iron overload induced toxicity. No, iron is a chemical element belonging to transition metals with electron donor and acceptor activity. Despite iron is a crucial component in neurofunctioning, its excess can lead to protein aggregation and oxidative stress. Its most destructive effect is neuronal cell death. Therefore, accurate regulation of iron homeostasis is required. Iron accumulation mainly happens in normal aging, but several age-dependent and independent factors are associated with this progression. Okay. So, Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disorder, slowly destroys learning, memory, blah, 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 thinking skills, age, gender, blah, blah, blah. Iron and Parkinson's disease. You can read this all on your own. Quercetin is one of the most important defense compounds against foreign environmental agents in a variety of plants, with a molecular weight of 302.236 gram mole, and molecular formula, blah, blah, blah. It is a yellow powder, yada, yada, needles, Okay, quercetin bioactivity and quality of its uptake, the glycostated. Okay, yada yada, iron overload. Okay, so quercetin directly exerts protective effects against iron overload via iron chylation. Besides, quercetin indirectly acts against iron overload via several mechanisms, including binding quercetin to free radicals, regulation of iron homeostasis genes, so it helps regulate the iron homeostasis genes, and regulation of enzymes involved in the Fenton-Haber-Weiss reaction. I wonder if they've tried this in that hemochromatosis, if they ever tried quercetin in patients with hemochromatosis. I should have looked that one up. Quercetin is an iron chelator. Iron chylation therapy refers to the elimination of iron of excess iron to establish iron homeostasis in the body. An ideal iron chelating agent must have high affinity for iron binding sites to form stable complexes with iron ions, not with other critical metal ions. Moreover, the consideration of optimal size, solubility, safety, blah, 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 iron, quercetin is known as a strong phytochelator that can bind to both iron and iron 2 and iron 3, so that's the number of atoms, of course. Generally, there are the number of electrons or whatever. Generally, there are 3 iron chelating sites in the structure, I know it is the number of atoms. What am I thinking? I'm a little tired. My basic chemistry knowledge is screwing me. So, quercetin can compete with other major cellular iron chelators as ATP citrate, blah, 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 blah. I'm also trying to read this a little too fast. Okay. Quercetin binds to iron atom, the preferred coordination sites, yada yada yada, groups in A, receive rings, It has been demonstrated in ratios of 1 to 1, 1 to 2, Quercetin is a free radical scavenger. Of course, radical scavenging refers to the interaction of quercetin and, free radicals, nitrogen and oxygen-based free radicals. Quercetin inhibits the Fenton reaction via scavenging oxygen. Also, radical oxygen species scavenging by quercetin leads to the formation of more stable and less reactive species. Quercetin donates electrons to reduced radical oxygen species, relatively neutralizes toxicity, for example. Once quercetin interacts, blah, blah, blah. Flavonoids can affect the expression of genes, yada yada yada. Involved in iron metabolism, it increases liver expression. This increase in the expression of the NRF2 upregulated is basic transcription factor that responses against iron overload via regulation of iron metabolism genes such as hepcidin. So it regulates the genetic pathway that helps you to not overabsorb iron. Quercetin prevents iron overload by regulating that genetic pathway. Quercetin is a regulator of enzymes involved in the quercetin has antioxidant effects to inhibit the cascade of reactions that generate primary and secondary oxidation products during oxidative stress conditions. Enzymatic antioxidants such as superoxide dismutase, these things that I don't know what they're abbreviated for, glutathione. Moreover, quercetin significantly decreases total antioxidant capacity in the hippocampus of diabetic rats. Quercetin can directly interact with GPX and promote enzyme activity by structural changes. Quercetin binds to heme moiety or specific residues and enhances antioxidant activity. Quercetin against dementia-associated diseases, anti-Alzheimer effects of quercetin. We've already been through this in my video of quercetin versus Alzheimer's disease and cancer. So this is about ameliorating iron overload in rats with quercetin. So the current study suggested that quercetin may represent a new horizon in the treatment of iron overload-induced small intestinal toxicity, chelation of serum and intestinal iron accumulation, improving serum iron indices, inhibiting oxidative stress, and improving the antioxidant capacity. It attenuated iron-induced apoptotic activity and inflammation. In addition, it ameliorated the histopathological alterations induced by iron overload in the small intestinal tissues. So not only will I be ordering next month my iron levels, my ferritin levels, all that jazz, I'm going to be getting a liver test. So in conclusion, the present study, this is about how it ameliorates liver failure, or attenuates liver failure. It demonstrated that alpha-lipoic acid effectively attenuates liver cirrhosis in rats poisoned with a chemical that causes it. Alpha-lipoic acid administered suppressed induced autophagy, okay, and it did this by the AKT and mTOR pathways by down-regulating, or by re-regulating it, I should say, moving forward. So this is about alpha-lipoic acid in liver metabolism and disease. Okay, so our alpha-lipoic acid is found naturally occurring, blah, 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 alpha-lipoic acid. Therefore, it appears the compound has important therapeutic potential in conditions where oxidative stress is involved. Such studies sought to evaluate the supplemental alpha-lipoic acid using low doses on lipid or carbohydrate metabolism, During the same period, alpha-lipoic acid was also used as a therapeutic agent in a number of conditions relating to liver disease, including alcohol-induced damage, mushroom poisoning, metal intoxication. Alpha-lipoic acid supplementation was successful in the treatment of these conditions. In many cases, experimental studies and clinical trials in the last 5 years using high doses of alpha-lipoic acid, 600 milligrams in humans, have provided new and consistent evidence for the therapeutic role of antioxidant alpha-lipoic acid in the treatment of insulin resistance and diabetic polyneuropathy. The new insight should encourage clinicians to use alpha-lipoic acid in the diseases affecting the liver. Okay. So I just wanted to point out that alpha-lipoic acid is also, it protects against co-exposure to lead and zinc oxide particles. Just so you know, you can check this out on your own also. And that'll be all for this video.